welcome guys. We're here with Toby and myself, and we're going to riff out on a bit of cryptocurrency right now. We're going to give you some coin chat. We're going to talk about protocols, what's happening, launches. We're going to give it to you straight and chat. Toby, tell us a bit about yourself first. What's going on?
Pleasure to be here, Fred. We've known each other for a while now. I've had a lot of different involvements in the industry, from investing in the space myself, and that sort of led out from my derivatives trading background to working with a lot of companies like Independent Reserve, helping them with their institutional sales. Also, my own projects and partnership I'm running with two other people in an investment company called Polybius Capital, which was supposed to be a public fund. We've actually steered that towards being a private fund, as we feel it's much easier to be nimble and just looking after our own capital. And it also provides us with an interesting pitch to projects, because when we invest, it's our money on the line and nobody else's, which aligns everybody's interests.
That's sweet. So, Tobes, we were hanging out, man, in New York City at Consensus. We've met a lot of new and interesting projects out of that as well, and a lot of interesting new angles.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like, right now what's going down. So we've got a lot of protocols launching right now. We've got Wanchain, we've got Neo, Ethereum, we've got Icon, we've got Eos coming up.
Yeah.
Like, what's your take on all this? Like, where's this going?
Yeah, and plus the 50 we've probably never heard of.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing, and I think last year everybody was a protocol investor, and that was the thing to do. But I'm sort of swinging around to the opinion that there's probably going to be 3 or 4 winners in this space, and all of these other ones will pave the way for breakthroughs in technology. But it's now becoming treacherous, because to really get the return, how are you going to pick that winner? There might be answers to that in different approaches, like picking up an index of people trying to do the same thing. So as when a leader drops out, you'll pick up the new one coming up. And there's a lot of changes in the landscapes right now. We've got the Eos Launch, which isn't far away, and it's something that I have taken a long time to come around to. Yeah. But
tell us about what's been your challenges with it, and like now what's sort of been changing. What have you been thinking about that?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is around the way they did that raise. It was a complicated process with the 365-day daily auction, and that always just seemed to be a little bit too perfect for my liking, and I'm always very skeptical. So that was essentially one of my big concerns about it. And there were a few interesting team members and a bit of a checkered history there, which I guess is not uncommon in blockchain. But if you look at their GitHub repository, it's about as strong as any project's ever been. Yeah. The claims they're making are fantastic, and I'm starting to worry maybe they can back them up. And if they can, people may switch their apps or dApps away from Ethereum to a faster, better blockchain.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it will be the one, but if they can live up to their claims, it's going to be a hell of a threat.
Well, I've seen some white papers now with the ERC20 token being maybe for the raise, and then another token that's going to run actually on EOS and run the actual application itself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a bit of a a fork in like how people, like, maybe the money comes from Ethereum because it becomes a bit stable.
Yeah.
That's been always the ICO raiser, but maybe actually delivering the dApp itself. Like, what's your take on? I guess,
well, that's the sort of criticism with Ethereum is its biggest disruption, which people didn't really see at the outset, was it disrupted VC and the whole funding process.
Totally.
And it became very easy for anyone to raise capital by issuing utility tokens, security tokens, whatever. What it wasn't good at was actually the follow through in running the application.
Yeah.
And the EOS raise is particularly interesting because they're sitting on a bucket load of their competitors' currency, which creates the very interesting dynamic that at some stage when they want to monetize that, they're going to be selling a lot of their competitors' currency.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't really happen in the normal business world. Like, you don't go and raise money in your competitors' company's shares, which it's a dynamic that I don't think I've ever seen before.
So that's interesting as well. I think we're talking about like this phase right now. I think we've been talking about this idea. You know, when the internet started, you had this phase of sort of infrastructure, then applications, infrastructure and applications. You know, dial-up modems and that kind of maxed out. Then you had, you know, broadband, and then you had a whole blooming of beautiful websites, and then you had mobile data, and that bloomed with beautiful apps and actual applications could be done. And maybe in that spectrum, we're probably maybe dial-up still with Ethereum, and you know, could we? Where do you think sort of Eos and WAN and Icon and you know, all these ones like Radix and all these things, are they sort of broadband, do you reckon, or are we still in dial-up?
Yeah, it depends. Like a lot of these protocols are actually copies of the Ethereum code base. Like Wanchain in particular is using Ethereum's code base, and they've added tweaks to make it more suitable for financial applications like Monero ring signatures, and now they're working on Wanchain 2.0, which is interoperability with Ethereum, and then Wanchain 3.0 will be interoperability between Ethereum and Bitcoin, which is all a breakthrough within its own right, but it is all pinned to the same scalabilities that come from Ethereum.
Yeah, so maybe, I guess your EOS is definitely pitching to be an Ethereum killer.
Yeah.
So,
and there's others out there. You've got Cardano, ADA, and
Yeah.
they're taking the sort of high road, saying that they've got the best academic and researchers, and that they're the right people for the job because they're essentially the smartest guys in the room.
Yeah.
But again, it's all promises, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see who can actually back it up.
Yeah. So what's your call? So we got. Let's. What's your forecast over the next 6 months as EOS really comes up? Ethereum is supposed to be competing it. What's your pitch on, you know, in terms of where people are going to build apps and where people are going to raise money?
Yeah, I think it'll change as fast as the exchange space changed last year. You looked at it. We were all on Poloniex at one stage, and then it was Wentrex for the ICO listings, and then Binance just came and blew everyone away. I think the smart contract platforms could follow a similar path to that, where we'll think, oh, look, EOS has done this, and then maybe it's Cardano, and maybe it's something we haven't heard of.
Yeah.
You've got other...
Hashgraph.
Hashgraph's a really interesting one.
Yeah.
They're the sort of antithesis of blockchain in a way, because it's not as distributed that anyone can run a node, but it's very corporate friendly. So you're going to see a lot of companies going, we know who the validating nodes are, we trust these people, it is patented. A lot of these ideals will present distributed ledgers in a way that are going to be palatable to, I think, corporate America and corporates worldwide.
Yep. Okay, so what's your pick? I guess let's kick it out there. Which ones are going to die? What do you reckon? Which ones have got like some trouble? What's your pick? You're looking at something right now and you're like, oh,
I think there's
people worried about it.
So many strong opinions in this industry.
Yeah.
If you don't have something nice to say, maybe don't say it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair. Well, what's ones that you're bullish on in terms of the potential top three that you're?
I've always approached this space that you've always got to be looking for the competitors because it's a disruptive technology and everyone's so excited about the disruptions that the technologies like Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to make. But I've always been worried what's going to disrupt the disruptors. And the other, I guess, threat that could potentially be coming for Ethereum is something like RSK, smart contracts on Bitcoin. It's the most widely distributed network. It's a sidechain. It can be faster. It can be scalable. Things like that.
The 2015 white paper that everyone's trying to find.
Exactly. And it's the hottest deal in town right now if you can access it.
Yeah.
Everyone's fighting over it. It's trading. Allocations allegedly are trading at 3 to 4x in the secondary OTC markets. And I think there's a lot of dodgy deals being done in that because everyone's chasing it. So,
well, I guess if you don't have it, then it's dodgy.
Well, yeah. I guess as soon as anything's hot, you've got to be careful of people that are making promises about these
interesting,
unicorns that they've caught. Yeah.
So just switching with that, there is a bit of chat on the street right now about 51% attacks with blockchains.
Yeah.
A site's come out and sort of propounded to say that, you know, you only need a certain amount of hashing power and, you know, you could buy this hashing power. Obviously some of it's just unfathomable to potentially buy, but some of them on there look relatively small hashes. Ethereum Classic looked relatively low. What's your take on that? Like, what are you thinking now?
Yeah, without being an expert on the sort of mining and what is just taken to pull off a 51% attack on these smaller networks. I think that's the sort of nature of blockchain. Unless the network is truly globally distributed and in a lot of hands all around the world and not necessarily giant mining data centers, that what's the point in having a blockchain? It's just a complicated database. So a lot of these up and coming smaller networks are going to face threats from competitors that I guess could divert resources to attack them.
100%. I've been thinking, and there are a lot of really, really smart miners out there. Wanted to kick out this idea of 51% insurance.
Yeah.
So you go to a miner, you pay them an insurance policy to protect your blockchain.
Yeah.
Obviously, the actual mining itself of the coin's probably not that profitable, but with the insurance policy on top, maybe this probably might be already happening in some extent. What do you think about that sort of concept and that idea of that evolution?
Yeah, we discussed this earlier, and again, it's a bit of a new concept to me, but I think it is a great idea. So you're running a smaller network that is very healthy, but you worry about maybe a larger competitor or somebody with a intent to take you down for some reason, causing those sort of dramas. Yeah, you could have somebody that you pay, they come in, monitor your network, look at what pools have how much of the hash rate, and I can't see why they couldn't provide a service to switch their data centers or ASICs or GPUs over to protect these networks for a fee. It's a very interesting idea.
A new asset class.
Yeah.
Let's talk about so a lot of these projects. Before we go into some coins, just want to talk about two other things. One is the global financial crisis, or Europe crisis right now, or it depends on which country you're in, because it wasn't a global financial crisis in America. It's just a financial crisis.
Yeah.
But Europe and crypto, are they connected? Obviously, Italy's having an interesting time right now.
Yeah.
Euro's like the top shit coin when it comes to forex right now. What's your sort of take on that?
These sort of issues are why I'm in this space, because I believe so strongly in them that the sort of current monetary system is 100% broken. Like, if you look at Italy's sovereign yield in 2012, it was at 7%. They were insolvent. They weren't almost insolvent. They were insolvent. At that rate, they didn't have tax receipts to pay back their interest. The only thing that saved them was the ECB coming in, buying bonds, shifting the yield to a point that's more palatable so they can keep the system going. What is going to change Italy's economic prospects in the next 10, 20 years that they can pay back 2.1 trillion of debt? Nothing. But you can't fight a central bank who's got money being printed and bids in the bond market to prevent a currency crisis, which isn't even possible in the euro because it's all one common currency.
100%. So let's talk about that. So if you're in Italy, do you think people are buying crypto to hedge against euro?
I think they're probably so used to turmoil in Italy that they think this will probably blow over, it probably will, because I think you look at central banks and their history of actions, they tend to blink first and come in and rescue everybody, because I think they realise just how bad things could get. And I was sort of raising the point with Italy as opposed to Greece. Like, Greece had a referendum when they actually voted to not accept the terms imposed by the Troika, and Cyprus basically reneged on those terms, and they got more money from the Troika and the ECB and their creditors to fix a debt problem with more debt. And Greece has now got twice as much debt as when they had a debt crisis. But the good thing about Italy, I think, is they've got enough debt to actually really scare people. You don't blink when someone's threatening to not pay back 2.1 trillion, which they're not at that stage, but I think they are in a much more interesting bargaining position, because if you're going to be a debtor, you may as well be one that can command some power over your creditors. Italy are in that position. So,
maybe people are, they're going to crypto. And definitely when I was in Europe over Christmas, there was definitely a lot of talk about crypto being a place of, holding an asset. People are genuinely worried, I found, in Europe about the value of the coin and the currency. And then the prospects, I was in Italy as well, and it's a very tough place right now to live. A lot of young people, I think it's like 20% or something unemployment. It's right up there with young people.
Europe's one of these sort of really polarizing places. You've got some of the most beautiful palazzos and beach residences and all the beautiful places in Tuscany. And you go out of town and you've got these sort of Soviet-style apartment blocks, and like there's some really awful places in Europe. I think people are doing it tough in those parts of the world, and it's a very common thread between Portugal, Spain, Italy, definitely Greece, France, and then the other thing is I think people don't realise, and they probably shouldn't have to realise, but it's just the world we live in. There's precedent set by the whole Cypriot crisis, which actually you could see the huge spike in Bitcoin around that back in its early days. They instituted a bail-in rule, so anyone with more than 100,000 euros in their account had their money confiscated. Like, these are extreme measures that people don't think can happen to them until they do, which I guess it happens to Cyprus, and unfortunately for them, they're not big enough to get the world worrying about these issues. Italy is, which is also probably why everyone will be working together to find a solution. But
it's got to be an option, right? You've got to be like considering it. You know, if the tax man's coming and then they're going to like take a serious amount of.
Well, it's not even tax. It's
or what, you know, like they're just appropriate funds to some extent in some ways.
Yeah.
You want to defend and owning your own currency has got to be a factor in that, right?
Oh, 100%. And I think all of these things are positive for the adoption of people to take control of their finances and their money. And I guess that's one of the things that I'm so passionate about Bitcoin and crypto in general is I think money is a public good and that no one should own it, especially not a government. Because
100%.
You look through history, the human race does horrible things from time to time, and governments in the long run can't be trusted. And if you look at history, every fiat currency in all circumstances has always failed.
Yep.
So,
well, we're on that. We're fixing that. Let's talk about some coins now. Top coins. Let's start with DAOstack. Tell us about this. Quick overview for everyone who's not familiar. I guess it's really a coin and really a platform that helps you decentralize companies, funds, and markets. And amazing video behind it. Looks really incredible.
Yeah.
Give us your take on this, Toes. What's going on?
Yeah, so this is one that's been on our radar for a while and one we've made a small investment into. I think it's a really good project. It's doing some interesting things. It's exactly as it sounds. It's a stack for digital autonomous organizations to help people build and run, I guess, small communities, companies, whatever it may be, on the blockchain, and it'll give them the tools and resources to do that.
Really interesting.
Which, again, comes down to this sort of theory of mine that we're seeing a whole new economic paradigm develop, which is this decentralization, because we can now put trust in third parties that we wouldn't trust.
Correct.
I've seen the last sort of...
Well, we're trusting third parties right now without any transparency, right?
We trust institutions. That's why I think the last 200-300 years of sort of world economic growth has been driven by centralization. That's what we've been doing, like ever since. I always use the example of the Dutch East India Company forming the first common stock company. Why it worked is because it was too hard to raise money to insure a voyage of one ship. So they're like, well, then you can insure part of a voyage of 8 ships. And if one sinks, it's not all bad because we're making that much money and we can still pay everyone back. And ever since then, we've seen huge conglomerates formed, trading houses, clearing houses, banks, insurance companies, institutions like central banks, the IMF, like wherever you look, there's these giant institutions that bring the world together. We're now, I think, at this epochal shift where we can move to a world where you don't need these institutions and you don't need them slowing things down, adding bureaucracy, making things more expensive, because we've found, in some cases, a more efficient way to do things. Blockchain's not the answer for everything, but there will be instances like the internet. I don't think we really knew what the good use case of the internet was in '96. But some people out there are going to have these ideas and work on things that are really going to change the world.
I like it. So it's currently not trading right now yet on an exchange?
No, so they've raised and it's waiting to come to market.
Cool.
It's just one that I think is one of the more interesting ones I've had exposure to, which is why I mentioned it.
Cool. Tezos, a lot of talk about this. Really interesting. Obviously, recent partnership with the Boston Stock Exchange. Massive security token play here. Lots of regulation, but seems to be taking a bit of time to punch through.
Yeah.
Obviously, huge inefficiencies to be conquered with this one in terms of settlement, clearing, brokerage, all sorts of things in terms of trading securities. Huge raise, 230 mil.
And a long time ago.
Seem to be performing quite well since ICO.
But it still hasn't ICO'd.
Oh, right, no ICO.
There's only a futures market on it.
Gotcha.
So that's why this one's actually been really controversial. It's one I've had a lot of exposure to. One, because I really believe in the concept, and two, because I've invested in it. It had the huge debacle where they gave full control of the finances to a Swiss foundation, and then they had a difference of opinion with the foundation, and basically haven't had access to that money that they raised. But I think if you look at the 230 million they raised at the time they raised, I would be guessing they've got way over $1 billion in the bank, because I think when I funded them, Bitcoin was under 2,000,
right,
or around that price. So they're sitting on huge gains in the crypto they raised.
Wow.
And that's been the big controversy around them. They haven't had access to the capital. That's really slowed down their progress.
What's happening now, Toby? Like, where are we?
Well, I think it's sort of a real
close,
credit
right?
to their team. It's run by a fellow called Arthur Brightman.
Yeah.
And they've just pushed on regardless and built the infrastructure and the code needed to do it. They've been running the Tezos AlphaNet. They're launching the Tezos BetaNet as we speak in the next couple of days.
Wow.
It's really exciting. People like me are really excited about it, because the central pitch of what they're trying to do is a blockchain with inbuilt governance. So if it needs to morph or upgrade or scale or do one of these things, it won't just fork off. It'll come to a consensus decided by the people that have an economic stake in the blockchain, which are the holders. And then it'll take that direction, which is why it's something I've been trying to direct people towards, but I've dropped off. I remember talking to a number of Australian ICOs that wanted help, and I was saying Tezos is something we should look at. But they had hit these financial debacles, which has been a real shame, because I think it'd be amazing to see where this was if it had been live, because it's a sort of Cardano, Eos, or better level project in my opinion.
So it's July. How do you gain exposure to this coin? How do you buy it right now?
Well, there are futures trading,
okay.
I think, on HitBTC and probably somewhere else.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend trading crypto futures on tokens that don't exist, because it has been quite treacherous in the past. It will list. I think the futures price is, I might just check it, but
so it's definitely it's a bit of a treacherous one, you're saying.
So it's at $5 now. So it's performed really well.
That is definitely performing well. So obviously it's in the security space. I think it's a great play. I think definitely one to watch. Just moving forward, I guess Crowd Machine. This one, tell us about this, because I'm looking at it. I'm seeing it like a rented out. You rent out other people's computers. They power the thinking that goes on, and then it's like a sort of a beautiful WYSIWYG editor to go and make your blockchain and make your dApps and all those kind of things. Yeah.
So there's two elements to it. One is their sort of Crowd Machine blockchain that they're saying is a light blockchain that can be run on mobile devices. And more accessible for people to use, and it'll be decentralized because of that. But I think their central sort of premise is their suite and app store is basically, if I need to build a project and I put a lot of work into it, I can essentially add that code into a marketplace, because it might be the building block for someone else to do it. So it makes sense that people can access other people's work and use the tools developed by other people. And I think...
And then, like, speed up development and applications.
As this world matures and takes off and there's more demand for these projects to do well, I think these sort of tools and offerings could be interesting. And this is live, and it's one that's probably...
Will it go... So is it its own blockchain?
They are going to do their own blockchain.
Right. Interesting.
It is an ERC20 for now. And it hasn't performed that well since ICO. they did a first round at a very high bonus rate, which I think often has the effect of seeing people take profits. It's one, again, I'm holding, and where am I? I'm probably, I think for the early stage investors, you still have about what you've put in Ether, but probably down on dollars.
Gotcha.
It is one that I'm interested in holding because I think as the market picks back up, it will outperform.
Yeah.
But who knows with these
This
things.
is one of those ones really you can pick up post ICO, I guess, and take it at a relatively good price. It's a year since the ICO. Interesting. And there's that trend
That's
now.
Not quite correct. It's another one of these ongoing ICOs.
Oh, ongoing. Okay,
Yeah.
right. I guess it's still this interesting trend of like getting exposure now for coins we've forgotten about and not jumping on the next ICO. This is one that maybe people can get exposure to today.
Yeah.
And pick it up at a relatively good price.
Yeah.
And there's that trend of like, okay, let's get back. We've forgotten about these awesome projects that we were talking about.
Yeah.
3-6 months ago, right?
And this is a very speculative one. It's a blue sky one. But I think that's an important point you bring up. A lot of us have been chasing down the next big ICO and trying to get this. It's actually a great time to be looking at what is in existence and where is it trading. There's some really top blockchain projects for sale at, well, certainly cheaper prices than they were a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months ago.
Great idea.
That I think you've got to weigh up current ICO investments against what can be bought.
Yep.
And because a lot of these things are off 70, 80, 90%.
100%.
Yeah.
People just want the next shiny thing, right? Let's talk about Eos. It's today, I think, if I'm not mistaken, will be in a couple of days, launch of the mainnet. Been this whole speculation about vulnerabilities, and they fixed them apparently in 4 hours' time. They're still pressing on with the launch of this mainnet. It's been the pretty much one of the tokens with a lot of hate behind it or a lot of love. It's one of those extreme ones. Let's talk about this because I think this is a big deal, right? This is good. This is I guess quite a big deal in the space. It's moved into the top 5 coins.
The thing is, I think if you look at the price, it's 1/5 of Ethereum's market cap.
Mm-hmm.
It is already being priced in that it's going to take Ethereum's market share at that price, is my belief. So either it's got to live up to its hype and it can outperform Ethereum, and it could definitely take over Ethereum's market cap, or if it can't live up to its promises, it's probably way overvalued. It's one of the two, but 100%. I have definitely been in the skeptics camp, but I am really coming around to be very interested to see if they can pull off what they're claiming. Because if they can, it's potentially one I want to be investing in.
Yeah, well, I guess, one of the things that this hack, or I guess, vulnerability that was so interesting, that their system's working, right? That the ecosystem, so people are claiming bounties, they're checking the actual code, their GitHub's on fire.
Yeah, and that's one of the undeniable things. They're doing more work in the tech space than I think any other project. So.
Yeah, incredible. Obviously some interesting people behind it. A few question marks there, but they seem to just respond as well on social. Like they are active. They are like, it's not like this is a moving project. This is actually a thing. I think what I'm interested in what's interesting, or part of it, is this, going back to what we were talking about before, the dApps, the infrastructure, getting the transaction speed up. Maybe this might be one of the ones that actually is just going to actually provide a huge amount more transaction speed, give us that platform, and maybe we'll see a whole series of dApps that we're trying to launch or trying to get started. That's 6, 9, 8 months ago on Ethereum. It wasn't really possible. Yeah. Now reconfigure, and I think they've got like some porting thing between the two, Ethereum and EOS and things like that.
And I think a lot of these projects, obviously, the way to build the ecosystem around them is to make it easy for a project to jump from one blockchain to the other. And you look at, there's probably so many good ideas out there that will thrive in a decentralized sort of software environment like Ethereum or EOS, but even collectible cats can't run properly on Ethereum. So you try and build a decentralized Uber, I don't think you could even run a suburb of Sydney on Ethereum without breaking it. No. So these high TPS blockchains, I think, are really interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. Maybe Ethereum's overvalued. Who knows? A bit of speculation there.
Well, Ethereum, I think you can never take away from what it is and what it's done.
Well, 100%.
It's paved the way, and maybe
you wouldn't have EOS without Ethereum.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I find it very hard to speculate between these two, but I have come around to really respecting the threat of a project like EOS.
Yeah. So just want to finish up. Predictions, price predictions. Just wanted to kick it out there. You got a prediction for Bitcoin at the end of June?
End of June.
What are we at now? We're at 7,350 today. Where are you sort of feeling? What's sort of?
Yeah, I'm still positive. Obviously positive on the whole space, but in the short term, my prediction's probably sideways to higher. So 8,500.
Yep.
I also think if we can survive the next couple of months just going sideways, it's actually a really positive thing because of the store of value and I don't think an ever rising market is a good thing.
Yep.
I was actually getting more stressed about seeing how fast Bitcoin was going up last year when it went from 10 to 20,000 in under 2 weeks, because it was just it was going to do a lot of damage. Markets don't move like that, and they shouldn't. Even if it is this network growth, it should. That was a period of over exuberance that was unnatural. So I'd like to see sideways to higher, and I think the one takeaway from consensus, there's a lot of sort of criticism about there being hype and some dodgy projects, but I think the people we sort of met with on the periphery, there's real businesses being built everywhere you look, and
100%.
I think there's a lot of positive things coming for this space.
I agree.
You're seeing custodian services offered by corporate Japanese companies. You're seeing Goldman Sachs owns Circle was taking out Poloniex. You're getting banks writing research reports on all of this. I think the space is overall positive. I think it's really susceptible to flows, and there's a lot of people sitting on significant gains from the year gone past that are probably had a bit of a wake-up call as to how much they made and how quickly, that are probably taking a bit off the table. But once that slows down to a trickle and then the flow switches to buy, I think you'll see aggressive price moves in a positive direction. But it's a hard thing to time because the swings of sentiment in this market are like nothing I've ever seen before.
100%. Tobes, thanks so much, man. Some serious knowledge, some bit of philosophy in there, bit of crypto predictions as well. Thanks very much, guys, for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Cheers.